So I'm going to introduce James Frey. He's here to talk about his book, Endgame. We've got a bunch of people from the Niantic team here. Very cool. My name is John Hankey. For those of you guys that don't know me, I've been at Google for over 10 years now. I came in 2004 when Google acquired a company called Keyhole and worked on Google Earth and Google Maps for a really long time before we started a project called Niantic. And with Niantic, we've been working to create games that happen out in the real world and that blend fiction and mobile gameplay in a new way. Ingress is the game that's out there right now, and the next big thing for us is this project called Endgame. James called, actually his agents called me a couple of years ago and said that James wanted to talk to me. And I didn't know who James was at the time, but I quickly did some research and found out that, he's a very established author. Wrote a book called Million Little Pieces, New York Times bestseller, critically acclaimed. Bright Shiny Morning, another critically acclaimed book, probably my favorite of James's, what he calls, I guess, big boy fiction.
Yeah.
As I got to know James better, I learned that he worked in Hollywood. He directed movies, wrote movies, made movies out here for about 10 years before moving to the East Coast to become a real, bona fide, critically acclaimed novelist. What I also learned is that he has this really innovative approach to writing and developing fictions. He created this company called Full Fathom 5, employs a lot of writers in this collaborative way, and they've written a lot of young adult fiction, including I Am Number 4, which was a movie that James co-developed and produced with Steven Spielberg. But they also had developed games and audiobooks that accompanied the novels and done some incredibly innovative things with technology. And James explained that he was conceiving of this project that from the very beginning would create a universe that would unfold through novels and through movies and through mobile games. And he basically pitched me kind of the exact same things that we had been talking about inside of Niantic. But the cool thing was it was coming from a world-class creative, who had this already stellar reputation as a novelist and writer and somebody deeply intertwined with the film and movie industry. And I thought it was really the perfect opportunity for us to take this technology we had been working on and to marry it with world-class creative and to see what we could invent in terms of a new form of storytelling. And we're well into that. We have a site up now called Ancient Societies, where the first sort of glimpse of what we've been working on is out there, and a game that will come out next year that will reinforce the novel. But I think James is here to talk more about all of that. So I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thanks. I think John just said everything I was going to say. So, I have a weird history with this building. It's always cool to be here because I lived in LA for a long time, and I lived 5 blocks from here from 1994 to 2002. And I met my now wife when she was working here at Chiat Day making commercials for Apple. And so I often used to walk over and pick her up at the end of her workday, and we would walk to, there were very fewer bars and restaurants around here in the 90s, but we would walk to one of them and hang out. And I love coming to this building. I love coming to this building because of that, and I love coming to this building because of Google. It was in this building where John and I first met a couple of years ago. We cold called them. I had heard of Niantic and had done some research into Ingress, and I was fascinated by it, and I thought it was the future. And that's what I am trying to do, is build the future. Not build the future of technology, but build the future of storytelling and entertainment, and how a storyteller can use the technological tools at our disposal now to tell better stories, deeper stories, more immersive stories, more interesting and exciting stories. Endgame started in a way when I was 10 years old. I grew up in Cleveland, and one day my mom brought home this book called Masquerade, which was about a book by a dude named Kip Williams. He was an English painter, and he had written this book that was 16 pages of text, and it had 16 paintings in it. And embedded into the text and the paintings were a puzzle. If you could solve the puzzle, it led you somewhere to the location on Earth where he had buried a solid gold jewel-encrusted rabbit worth $50,000. As a 10-year-old, I had, dreams of solving this puzzle and buying a giant stack of Star Wars action figures and Atari cartridges. And I became obsessed with the book, and I read it over and over and over again. And what I loved about it was it somehow was a book that became more than a book. Usually a book is a static object and a static experience. You sit somewhere and you read it, and it exists on the pages, and it exists in your mind. What I loved about Masquerade is it somehow became more than that. It made me think about it everywhere I went. It made me look around the world and wonder. I knew in my 10-year-old mind that the rabbit wasn't buried in my schoolyard, but I still wondered. I knew it wasn't, buried in my neighbor's backyard, but I still wondered. It somehow became more than a book to me. And it took somebody 3 years to solve the puzzle of Masquerade. The rabbit turned out to be buried at the foot of a tree where an ancient English king was rumored to have been beheaded. And then the world sort of forgot about it. I never did. I always thought about Masquerade. I always wanted to try to do something like Masquerade. Like John said, I have a weird work history. I went to art school. I moved to LA. I worked in the film business for a long time. I wrote some movies. I directed a couple movies. I produced some movies. When I was 30 and I was living right down the street, the dream had always been to write books. I quit and I wrote a book. I wrote A Million Little Pieces right over there. It came out. I was lucky enough that it did well, and I was able to not go back into the film business, just write books. I did that for 10 years. So I worked in the film business for about 10 years, and then I wrote books for about 10 years. And at the end of that sort of run, I was bored with writing books. I was bored with writing normal books. And then these things started appearing. I think these are extraordinary devices that we take for granted. I hold this thing in my hand, whether it's an iPhone or a Nexus device, whatever smartphone you use, and I have all the world's knowledge at my fingertips at all times. I can learn anything about anything within about 5 seconds. I can see a picture of any location on Earth within about 5 seconds. I can see a mapping coordinate and get directions to anywhere on Earth within about 5 seconds. I can take pictures, I can watch videos, I can play games, I can call people, I can text people, I can engage in social media. It's an extraordinary thing. It's if you went back in time with this and handed it to somebody, they wouldn't believe it existed. As a storyteller, I thought about how could I start using the technology embedded within this thing to make better stories? How could I take a book and expand it out using the technology? It sounds like a weird idea, but I sort of had this idea when I was searching for something on Google, and an odd search result came up. And I thought that would be cool to somehow link out of a book. You're reading a book, you pop a link on a digital book, it takes you to a search result that somehow illuminates whatever it was you were reading. From there, I started thinking about Masquerade again. I started thinking about a puzzle embedded within a book. And instead of just doing it within the pages of the book like Kip Williams did, somehow trying to do it using all of these technological tools that were now at my disposal as a storyteller. From there, I started thinking about what kind of story could I tell? What story would work? What story would be a cool book that I could use technology with, that would tell a story, that could have a puzzle? And then I started thinking sort of further than that I could build a mobile game with. I play mobile games, that I could make movies out of, that I could build a universe out of. I like conspiracy theories. I like aliens. So I started looking at a lot of stuff like that. What I'll start to tell you now, some of it's real information, some of it's fake. I'm a master at blending those things. So I will be very clear with you when I'm jumping back and forth. Real information. Human beings that look like us have existed for 200,000 years. Human beings that think like us have only existed for 12,000 years. This was discovered in 2003, 2004 by the Human Genome Project. After they fully decoded the genome, they started going backwards in time to look at the DNA of people from different periods of time to see how we had evolved, if we had evolved at all. They reached a point 12,000 years ago where something happened to the genetics of our brain. Two genes from opposite ends of the gene spectrum were moved and fused, and it made us significantly smarter and greatly enhanced our cognitive abilities. There's no explanation for it. Nobody knows how it happened or who did it. The only thing they've ever seen like it is when they genetically engineer animals in their own labs. That's fact. At the same time that happened, all of the world's earliest civilizations were formed. They were formed in the Middle East, in India, in China, in South America, and North America, all at about the same time. All of those earliest civilizations were formed around gold mines. Nobody has any idea why this happened. Gold's not a functional metal. You can't make a hammer out of it, or an axe out of it, or a knife out of it. It's not particularly rare or hard to get. It's beautiful, but there are other beautiful things in the world. But all the world's earliest civilizations were formed around gold mines. At the same time those two things happened, all of the world's earliest origin myths were born. And they all say almost identically the same thing, which is that our omnipotent creators descended from the sky amidst smoke and fire, created humanity, gave us rules to live by, and then left. But before leaving, they told us someday they would come back, and when they did, the world would end. So as a storyteller, I see that information, which is all real, and I think it's cool. And it makes me think, well, 12,000 years ago, aliens came to Earth because they discovered gold was here, and they needed it for whatever reason. And they saw these grunting animals that bashed each other over the heads with sticks, and they decided to genetically engineer us to make us a little bit smarter so they could organize us into a labor force so we could dig up their gold. When they had the gold, they took off. For my fiction, I said before they took off, or for my fiction, what I have them doing is starting 12 original civilizations around the world. The reason I chose the number 12 is because multiple religions and multiple ancient civilizations use that number. They use it in the Bible, they use it in the Quran, they use it in China, they use it in Japan. They all say humanity descended from 12 original civilizations or tribes. In the book, we use the oldest civilizations on Earth. We in a very calculated way, we chose ancient civilizations, but we also chose civilizations from all over the world, so somehow it was balanced. And what we say is the aliens told these civilizations that when they returned, a game would be played to determine the future of humanity, and that they had to keep somebody under the age of 20 prepared to play this game at all times. So for thousands and thousands of years, these civilizations, all of which are extinct, all of which have vanished, have actually lived on in secret and kept people prepared to play the game. In the book, we say that a lot of the world's secret societies, things like the Brotherhood of the Snake, or the Illuminati, or the Rosicrucians, or the Priory of Sion, are in fact real, but they are not devoted to world domination. They are devoted to keeping players prepared to play Endgame. All the players knew, all the civilizations knew, was that the game would be kicked off by a celestial event. So they waited. At the beginning of the first book, 12 asteroids simultaneously hit Earth's surface. They do trillions of dollars of damage and kill millions of people. Most people on Earth think it's a fluke, except for these players who know that Endgame just started. Switch back to real information for a second. There's a pyramid in China. It's called the Great White Pyramid of Xi'an. It is built to the precise dimensions of the Great Pyramid at Giza, except it's 3 times larger. They know at one point the pyramid at Giza was covered with white limestone and had a gold cap on it. The pyramid in China is still covered with white limestone and has a gold cap on it. The Chinese government doesn't let anyone near it, doesn't let anybody within 100 miles of it. Last time it was seen was in 1945 when U.S. fighter pilots flew over it and took a bunch of pictures of it. If you Google that, you'll see the pictures. The Chinese government doesn't discuss why they don't let anybody near it or what they think happens there. They just don't. In the book, the players go to this pyramid where they're met by an alien who tells them that Endgame is the hunt for 3 keys, that 3 keys have been hidden around the world. They have to be found in order, and the first player to physically possess those 3 keys wins the game. What they win is the apocalypse is coming, and the slice of humanity descended from the winner's civilization will survive the impending apocalypse, everybody on Earth is going to die. Does that all make sense? So I have that story framework. I have a story that I think works, that I think is cool, that blends real information with fictional information, and that gives me a framework to build what I call a 21st century book or a 21st century entertainment franchise. A puzzle, a mobile game, a series of movies and television shows, books or novellas, social media, almost limitless what we could do with it. From there, I wrote the book. I knew there was going to be a ton of labor involved in doing this project, more than anything I had ever done before. So I found a friend of mine to write the book with me. I wrote a 30-page outline and a 50-page sort of Bible, handed it to him. He wrote the first draft of the book. From there, I rewrote the book 3 times, and the book was finished. The book was finished about 2.5, 3 years ago. Once the book was finished, it was, okay, how do I do this? And I had written out how I wanted to do it in this sort of Bible document. And the first partner I wanted to get was Google, for a variety of reasons. One of them because I had seen Ingress. I hadn't seen it, I had heard of it and read about it and knew what it was. And it very much matched up with my idea of how to make a mobile version of Endgame. B, when I wanted to build the puzzle for the book, I wanted to use Google's app engines for a variety of reasons, but I also wanted to use Google itself and build a book that when you read it, you're reading along and you'll come in a physical book, it's a footnoted word. In a digital book, it's a hyperlinked word. And you click it and it would take you out somewhere into Google, to a Google search result, to a YouTube video, to a Google map location, to a Google Earth location, to a book fragment, to a field trip excursion. A book that when you read it, the same way Masquerade took me out of it into a different world, took you out of it into a different world, and used all of these things, search results, YouTube videos, locations, as a way to enhance the story and deepen the story. Social media accounts, so Google Plus profiles. I called John, or my agent called John. He works up in San Francisco. I work in New York and Connecticut, so we met here. We had a 1-hour meeting scheduled originally that turned into a 3 or 4 hour conversation. It was him and a couple of the guys who I think are in this room who work on Ingress, a couple of the story puzzle guys. And from there it was, all right, how do we start building this? You know, it was remarkable meeting John because, like he said, we were thinking about exactly the same things, but from different points of view. He's a technologist. He knows how to build things and do things that I don't, and that are way beyond any version of what my brain can do. But I knew how to do things he didn't. I know how to tell stories. I know how to set up entertainment deals. I know how to make movies and television shows. And in many ways, it was a perfect marriage of complementary skills. From there, we started working on the game and the puzzle. I'm not smart enough to write the puzzle, so I hired a couple guys with PhDs from MIT to write the puzzle. We built the puzzle, which exists exactly like I always conceived of it, in a variety of places on Google, and then about 100 to 150 websites that are all built and linked using Google's app engines. And we started building the mobile game. And just like Ingress, if you play Ingress, and I would imagine how many of you play Ingress? A lot of you play Ingress. The thing about Ingress that snapped for me is, I was talking about a book being a static experience. Most video games are also a static experience. It's you get a game, you sit in front of a screen, and you don't move. You engage the game on a screen, and that's where it exists. If it goes anywhere, it goes to a place where you might interact with other players in different parts of the world online. But it's still a static, non-moving experience. My idea was, for Endgame, how do we turn the world into a video game? How do we build a game that you can play everywhere you go? That you don't play sitting on your couch, you play when you're walking to school, when you're going to the grocery store, when you're sitting at a stoplight in a car, when you're in a line to get your driver's license, whatever. How do we turn the world into a video game? And that's essentially what they were doing with Ingress. They figured out a way to make a game that forced people to get up off their ass and go do stuff and interact with each other and play against each other and choose a team. And on top of that, they were building fiction that went along with that game and went along with that idea. So not only are you getting up off your ass to play a game that you can do everywhere you go, there's an ongoing story that lets you interact with it, that lets you participate in it, that lets you choose a side and have a team and work with other people to win or lose while playing the game. It's the future, absolutely. The technology lets us do this. So John and I started talking about, okay, how do we do it with Endgame? How do we take lessons learned from Ingress and apply them to Endgame while also making it something different and new and more exciting, hopefully. Not that Ingress isn't exciting. And we spent, a long time talking about it. He started hiring people. From there, I took the book out to publishers. We sold it to 35 publishers in 34 languages. When it was released, it was the largest simultaneous publication of a book in history. Came out in 34 languages in 165 countries on the same day. We built the puzzle. The puzzle was enormously complicated, not only in its conception and execution, both on the page and off the page, but incredibly complicated legally. We had to figure out how to do something that was legal in 165 countries. And then from there, once we had the publishers, the puzzle, and John's team working on the game, and John's hiring people to build out a team even bigger, we sold the movie rights. 20th Century Fox bought the movie rights in the biggest rights acquisition deal in the studio's long history. The producers are a group of two men named who call themselves Temple Hill. They made all the Twilight movies. They made Fault in Our Stars. They made Maze Runner. They're old buddies of mine. And now this actually might work. We have a book. The book came out in October. It hit the bestseller list in 12 languages in about 30 countries. A book that's going to be a game, that's going to be a movie, that will have ongoing, it will have fiction that we write in the books, but just like Ingress, it will have ongoing fiction and new puzzles that allow the readers and the gamers to interact with the characters, to feel like they're participating in it, to help us shape where it goes. Right now, the books and the ARG fiction are separate, but we've been working a lot to fuse them. So in the next book, which comes out next October, they'll start to fuse, and then by the time the third book comes out, the October after that, they'll be fully fused. And what I think we believe we're doing is building the future of entertainment, of books and of gaming and of films, and of how those things are, instead of allowing them to happen accidentally. And when I say accidentally, you look at something like Harry Potter. They didn't plan for Harry Potter to be what it was. It happened, it came out, it exploded, and then they built a whole world around it after its success. My idea from the beginning of this was that we could create that world from the beginning and people would come to it. That instead of waiting to see what happened, we build it and they come. And that's what we're doing. It's been like crazy exciting, a ton of work. Not too stressful actually, because you get up excited and kind of scared every day, which is what I think the best way to feel about your job is. Yeah, and it's been amazing. I get to work with a ton of people who are a lot smarter than me and who know a lot more about things that I don't know. And I think it's actually going to work. I think we're going to pull it off. Any questions? No questions? All you smart people and no questions?
This sounds amazing. I can't wait to look at this. I was so excited coming in this morning. So this is great. My question for you is, how much of a leap of faith was it when you started this project? Because with a Harry Potter book, you start out with a book. It's a fairly, you work with a publisher to publish it, and then it just kind of grows from there. So you have a basis of success. With something like Endgame, it's a great concept, but it sounds to me you had to employ a lot of people from the get-go to sign on to this project before it could ever be fiscally feasible. So can you talk a little bit about the business aspect of it and finish to the creative aspect?
I mean, really, it was just convincing people that my vision was possible. It was, getting into rooms with people who could make this thing a reality and convincing them that it was possible to do. One thing I did was the book was done, and there was a sort of controlling plan document. So I wasn't just coming in and saying, well, this is what I want to do. You want to do it? I could say, this is what I want to do. Here is the plan very precisely. Here's what I need. Here's what I would like to do with you specifically. And here's the book. You can read it. People took real leaps of faith. I was convincing people to spend real money and put in real work. And I don't know what to say other than that. I think a lot of I didn't know John, but I knew everybody else I went to. I had worked with them before. HarperCollins published a book in the United States. They published one of my adult novels before and about 40 of my company's books. So it's a very long-standing, stable, productive relationship. Marty and Wick, the movie producers, are guys. Marty used to be one of my agents 15 years ago, and they're guys I've known since I first started writing movies out here a long time ago. I worked for Wick. And then, as far as making deals, I always say, just look at what the greater good is. I'm not going to fight you and bitch and moan about a little deal point. The idea is to make this happen, to prove it out. And if we can make it happen and we prove it out and it works, everybody's going to be very happy financially. But that if I get hung up over stupid bullshit, I put it in jeopardy. When you make a partnership with anybody, whether it's a business partnership or a friendship or a marriage or whatever, you take a leap of faith. And for me, it's I don't need to control everything. I don't have to be in charge of everything. You have to believe in the people you're working with or you're in partnership with. And if I've done anything well on this project, it's choose great partners. I think the guys, John and Dan and Jim, the whole team here at Google, I always am super excited when I come here. A, because the cafeteria fucking rocks. B, because I get all the free Coke Zero I want. But C, because I walk in and I know I'm going to spend my day with people, and I don't say this jokingly or in a corny way. I'm going to work with people who I really truly believe are smarter than me and who are awesome at their jobs. They're the best people in the world at their jobs. And we're doing exciting, fun stuff. And every time I come, it's not like I'm here every day. Every time I come, there's something new happening. They have something new to show me, something new to tell me. And I would be a fool and a madman to walk in here and try to tell them that I know more than them, because I just don't. You work with the best people you can, and you let them do their job, and you trust them. And then honestly, you let them know how much you appreciate working with them. It's been great. The partners have all been great. We do events together all the time. Me, John, and Marty Bone did an event last night. We've done events all over the place together. It's always a pleasure to see everybody. I'm always stoked. And like I said, I get up excited most days.
I'm really excited to read the book, by the way. But my question is, were you aware that there was a scandal surrounding the end of Masquerade?
Was I aware that there was a scandal surrounding the end of Masquerade? I was. So the scandal surrounding the end of Masquerade was that the winner of the prize was the new boyfriend of the author's ex-girlfriend. Does that make sense? So clearly there was some kind of inside shit going on there. One of the things we did with Endgame was we went to great lengths to make sure that that was not possible. I don't know where the key is hidden. The way the puzzle works, Matt Leibowitz and his team, which is sometimes 3 people and sometimes 20 people, I'm never sure how many he has working for him at any given time, built the puzzle. Matt knows the solution to the puzzle, and one of my attorneys knows the solution to the puzzle. Nobody else does. The way the actual mechanics of the puzzle work is when you solve one of the first puzzles in the books, it will take you to one of two websites. Once you're there, you sign in. You have to have a Google account. So if you don't have a Gmail address, you have to start one. You accept our privacy policy, you accept our rules. From there, part of our privacy policy allows us to track you everywhere you go, only when you're engaged in our websites or engaged in the puzzle. So if you're on a puzzle website trying to solve a puzzle, we know where you are, we know how long you've been there, we know what you're doing. We can do that with every player on Earth. Last I checked, there were players from 100, or people actively working to solve the puzzle from 104 countries, and over 100,000 people had solved the first entry-level puzzle and were working. There was a group of, let's say, 20,000 people who spent multiple hours a day on it. And there was a group of about 10 who were in the lead. But we will know where they are, what they're doing, and we will know when somebody wins. When somebody solves it, there will be one person who does it. We'll be able to prove it. We'll be able to print out an entire record of how they got there, how long it took them, what steps they took in order to both prove that it was fair and ensure that it was fair. And people ask me all the time, like, where's the key? I don't know. For a while, I actually had the key in my wallet. For the first 3 weeks after the book came out, the whole puzzle was built, but we knew, or we believed, nobody would solve it that quickly. So I was walking around with this key in my wallet, and I would pull it out at events and be like, here's the fucking key. And I'm not sure, I don't know if you guys were at any of those events. I'm not sure if people believed me or not, but it was the key. Once you find the key, the prize is $500,000 for the first book, $500,000 in gold. For the second book, it'll be $1 million. For the third book, it'll be $1.5 million. The gold is in a bulletproof case bolted to the floor of Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. So when you find the key, you will go to Caesar's Palace, you'll open that case. It's actually hydraulic, so you put the key in, you turn it, and the hydraulic case will lift up, and you get to sweep away the gold and do whatever you want with it.
Is it going to be taxed?
That's actually a very valid question and one we had to deal with. And in the rules of the game, we say we are not responsible for you, your taxes, or your interactions with the government of your country in any way whatsoever. That once the gold moves physically out of the case into your possession, it is your business. If you happen to win it, I would highly advise you pay your taxes, but it's got nothing to do with me.
When do you expect someone to win it? It sounds like you're expecting a winner before the next book comes out.
We don't really know. We wanted to design the puzzle so that it took approximately 10 to 12 months for somebody to solve it. It's, again, one of those things you can't really control. You can build it in a way that you think will take that long, but you can't control it. Right now, it's on track to happen somewhere within that window. Right out of the gate, people were slightly ahead of pace. Then people fell slightly behind pace. Right now, I think they're right on pace. I think it'll get solved in August or September of next year, which will be right before the next book comes out. But I don't know. I know nobody solved it yet, which makes me happy.
It's pretty marketing for the next book.
Yeah, we're not stupid that way. Couple more.
Is it hard to catch up?
It's not actually hard to catch up, I don't think. I mean, I haven't done it. You know, I'm not trying to solve it. I as part of the rules, I can't win it. So, and I'm also busy enough that I don't have the time to do it. But I think it's possible to catch up. I know people are sharing information, and I think it's possible to catch up.
will the game that's being built, will that be part of finding the key?
No, we talked about that early on, but legally it was way too complicated. You know, one company needed to take responsibility for the puzzle. I don't think Google wanted to indemnify either me or the puzzle builders, which, you know, Google didn't become Google because the people running it are stupid. So we talked about that very, very early on, but it was way too complicated to do for a variety of reasons. So no, but there's still puzzles that are part of the ARG fiction related to the game that are totally awesome and that you can go in and try to solve them. And once the game comes out, when you solve those puzzles, it'll give you rewards in the game. It'll give you better weapons or better armor or better skills. So there will be puzzles in the game that provide you with rewards, but not clues to the puzzle that wins you the money.
In the game, like, do you get to create a character, or like since you're probably like a character in Endgame, so.
You do. You get to choose a line, and you'll have a username, and you get to choose like what your character's wearing, and you get to go out on missions, sort of like Ingress, and you know, find the weapons you want, and then you get to go do battle with people. They showed us an animation of the game yesterday of one of the battles happening. It's going to be pretty awesome. It's going to be really cool.
So you can, like, with your friends, you could, like, make alliances and then go against your enemies or something?
You can. Like in a few months, the two of you will be able to make an alliance, and if there's like some 11-year-old boy in your class you don't like, and he's really annoying, and he's also playing Endgame, the two of you will be able to gang up on him and take him out. And if and when you do that, you have to send your dad an email so that he can send it to me because I want to hear about it.
So we were talking about kind of a book being a static experience and kind of branching out from that to something that's more, not just, you know, unbounded from the pages, but I think also unbounded from kind of the, you know, part of a book is, you know, you lock yourself in, you get all the creative vision out, and it's you. And I think with ARGs and things like that, you're dealing with the way it interacts with the world and how that affects back in, you know, the cycle of kind of creativity. Has that come into play within Endgame yet? So seeing interaction and kind of having that feedback into the future, if not?
It has not, but we believe it will, and we're sort of planning for it too. You know, one of the things with the ARG and the book is the first book was done before and was on a publication schedule before we even started any of the ARG fiction. So there's no way we can reverse engineer it back into it. There have been a lot of conversations and a lot of emails about book 2, and there's a draft of book 2. There's a pretty tight working draft of book 2 about how to integrate the ARG fiction into the book. And so in book 2, like I said, there will be a lot of, you know, the characters from the ARG are starting to appear in the book. By the time book 3 has to be finished, the ARG and the game will be out, and there will be real participation, we hope and believe, and there will be real feedback, and we will be able to integrate it far more into it. The other thing is we can do novellas. You know, we have 8 novellas finished right now, but we can produce novellas very, very quickly. And so part of the idea is that we'll be able to produce novellas within, let's say, 2 to 4 weeks of events in the game happening. And because with the novella we're not tied to a traditional physical publishing schedule, if an event happens in the game, in the ARG, we can pop out a novella and we can publish it immediately. So fans and players and readers will be able to get material in ways that they never have before. And part of that is because we built a system to be, or my company built a system to be able to produce material that quickly and efficiently, and digital publishing lets us do it. You know, once we have a manuscript done, it's maybe 3-4 hours to format into the proper files. We already have all the accounts set up with all the digital distributors, you know, Google, Apple, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's just a matter of, you know, setting up a page for the novella and releasing it. So there will be a lot of that. That's one of the most exciting parts of this whole thing is we'll be doing storytelling in real time with technology in ways that nobody's ever done it before. It's one of the exciting parts and scary parts. But that's definitely the plan. One more question? Two more questions? All right. I've silenced the Googlers.
So in the game, it sounds like you have to choose a line.
Yeah.
If you don't choose the same line as your friends, are you going to be able to play together?
You will. There will be ways to, different lines will be able to align with other lines, so there will, and then you will also be able to betray them. You'll have advantages over certain lines, you'll have disadvantages over certain lines, and you'll be able to align with some people from other lines.
So the people I want to play with, I should be the same line as them.
Or you should just, you'll be able to see what lines you can align yourself with. Just choose complementary lines. Or if they're like more a frenemy than a friend, like choose a line where you just you have advantages over and you get to go wipe them out.
For the game, could you are you going to be traveling on foot, like not on your device? Like, do you have to travel places to unlock special things, or do you like do that in the game?
Well, in this game, one big difference between Ingress is you can unlock certain things by buying them, but make sure your dad says it's okay first. But yes, you will be traveling on foot. You'll be just like Ingress. That's one of the greatest, if anything, that's one of the greatest things about Ingress. The great radical step that Ingress took is that it gets you out into the world. You're not sitting in a chair playing a video game. You have to play it. You have to go out into the world. And we definitely, that was one of the things I thought was awesome about it, and one of the reasons I called. So thank you very, very much for coming. I'm stoked, as always, to be here, and I hope you get a copy of the book, and I hope you read it, and I hope you dig it, and when the game comes out, I hope you play it and love it, and check out ancientsocieties.com where all the ARG fiction is. There's a ton of awesome material on there already, and there's only more coming, and yeah, go Google.